is a former Cycling Weekly and Cycle Sport writer who's been in the game some time, and he spent 5 years researching the story of the UK Cycling Project, which is the Olympics and then Team Sky. And he's spoken to many of the key players, and we can just walk around his imagination here. You can ask questions afterwards. He kind of probably knows more about this subject than anyone outside the inner core. So I think that this is going to be a great event. Pay close attention and welcome Kenny Pryde. He's come from Glasgow, by the way, so should have been a bigger round of applause. I think.
Thank you.
All right.
I feel like doing stand-up. I wish I was Frankie Boyle, I really do.
Do jokes. No one else wishes you were Frankie Boyle, so can you lean into the microphone a little bit?
1, 2.
Intimate. Is that right? Can you hear it at the back? Good. So why did you want to write The Medal Factory? Why did you suddenly go, now is the time?
I was one of those old guys that had remembered being here in 1990 as a journalist in Brighton at the Win County Classic, and watching Gianni Bugno and the rest of the guys dodging cars coming down Wilson Avenue, and thinking, dear Christ, and the riders afterwards going, this is bullshit, this is not a classic, and thinking, oh God, I don't even know who the best British finisher was that day, probably Sean Yates, but anyway, and we had come so far from 1990 and kind of being crap. We couldn't put on a race, we couldn't win a race, and then in 2012 we were winning just about everything, and then in 2016 we were rubbish again. We were just terrible, we were unconscionable, and it seemed that the pendulum had swung from one extreme to the other, and I thought, there's a midway point. That was kind of motivation.
And what was, why were you the man for this job? Because I mean, obviously, we know you've been in the game.
Right, you've been around.
Well, let's talk, because you used to be editor Winning, and
Yeah, it wasn't any good back then. It was already over the hill, but then, if I'm honest, that's another story. That's another book, James. That's another book.
But you looked at it and you thought this is.
Okay. To be serious, then, I mean, the genesis of the book was that I was editor at large, as I was called, at Cycle Sport, which basically means that meant I could live in Glasgow and travel Europe with a small budget and go to any race I liked and write any story I liked.
Small budget, I like that.
It was, but it was great. It was beautiful. It's everybody's dreaming here, just to go, somebody's going to pay me to travel Europe and write any story I like.
And that's just up to you. You just say, right, I'm going to go over
tour
of Morocco.
Whatever. But it was all the races that I hadn't spent time on, or just ideas that you had. So anyway, I was editor at large at Cycle Sport, and then they shut it down for. Okay, that's another story. But anyway, they closed it down, and I had been working on this story on Peter Keane and Chris Boardman, and how that relationship was fundamental to what subsequently happened at British Cycling. And I thought, this is a great story. And in the process of researching that, people would go, oh yeah, you got to speak to Doug Daly. Oh, have you spoken to Doug? No. Have you spoken to John Herity? No. Have you spoken to... And on it went, and it just grew and grew and grew. And I thought, actually, this is a story. A story worthy of a book. And I thought, well, I'll write it, because why not?
And was it easy for you to get hold of who you thought were the key witnesses? So you go down Peter Keane.
I sold the story to the publishing company on the basis that my contacts were unimpeachable, and of course I'd be able to. I had all these names. I was just going to phone them up. And then
what happened then?
Then the shit hit the fan. Nobody wanted to talk to anybody. Shane. Click.
So if you'd gotten like a year or two previously, it would have been a great story of success, and everyone wants to tell the story of success.
It wasn't. I don't know. It was never going to be a story of unbridled success. A success always involves somebody kind of losing. That's absolutely the nature of sport. And there were people. It wasn't a simple. okay, we get lottery money and then we just start winning, and then we get more lottery money and we win some more. They really messed up at the start, and they got it wrong, and they were making it up as they went along, and it was about that stuff, you know. And a lot of people who had been instrumental in supporting and developing talent and British cycling at a grassroots level got flicked. I mean, they just got dumped because their profile didn't quite fit the bill. It didn't fit the bill. I mean, Peter Keane drew up, okay, we need this, and you need to be able to commit this, and this, and that was as true of the staff as it was of the riders. So there were a lot of people who were really pissed off that this twat with a lab coat from Chichester, you know, had just gone, right, okay, all those trips that you went on, you're not going on them anymore. Your mechanic mate, no, he's not going anymore. You know?
That's interesting, because in the book, Kenny talks about how amateur, you know, top level cycling in Britain was.
Well, it's not surprised to end of the year.
But I think, you know, but then you could read that as, oh, it got really professional. That's brilliant. But of course, a lot of people who put in hours as volunteers, and so there's going to be treading on a lot of feet, losing a lot of goodwill.
Yeah.
And that's quite forgotten, isn't it? So not everyone has goodwill towards this project from the start.
Oh, certainly initially, no. I mean, again, it was just at the era 1998, 1996, the distinction between amateur and professional was collapsed, and it was elite under 23 and so on. And at that point, you know, the British pros were the best riders in Britain, but they were too old now, and they were going to effectively have to compete against guys that were riding the classics and the tour, so they were dumped. John Tanner, Wayne Randall, Chris Lillywhite, all of those guys were just like, sorry boys.
But it's not just their age, it's because they didn't want to, Peter Keane didn't want to get involved with road racing because he thought...
Also that, yeah. I think, well, none of those guys, I think Peter was quite happy to be involved in road racing as an adjunct and as a preparation, you know, to race on the track. But and Johnny Clay's a great example of a guy who went, you know, I can ride on the track and I can ride on the road, and I can do both. And Johnny ended up winning a bronze medal in Sydney, having been, you know, a great amateur in the 80s, and then he turned pro, rally, you know, Banana, and then he was a GB pro, and then that career kind of fizzled out because British professional cycling imploded, and he went and he rode a mountain bike for Orange, and then that kind of went off the rails. Manchester Velodrome, they went, okay, I'll try track racing, because every decent rider apparently is meant to do a bit of both. Johnny was a decent rider, he started riding the track, he was quite good at it, he got selected for the Olympics, and he kind of ended his career with an Olympic medal, which is... So that was a really long tangent. The point is that it wasn't because they were old, it was because they weren't interested in
was Carlton Kirby, so we don't worry about tangents.
Still, just give me a
talk about spiders. Talk about spiders or something, you know. But so
the five.
Peter Keane is a kind of godfather of it, and he writes the application for lottery funding that sets it all going. What kind of guy is he? You met him? Is he someone you'd warm to? Would he be good
I met
here?
Peter in 1986 at Stirling University when he came up to explain his insane theories about riding for 2 hours but quite hard and only drinking, you know, glucose polymers. People went, what? And apparently, and the guys science and sport guys, Tim and Pete, also came up. It was a proper, I mean, fair play to Sandy Gilchrist at the time, who was the Scottish national team manager, and he said, I've got these guys, I'm going to bring them up. And they stood up and come up with all this mad stuff. Mad.
It was mad, but now obviously.
But it was so far ahead of its time. Yeah, you don't have to, solid food, you know, what you need is a glucose polymer, a long chain glucose polymer of a certain osmolality, 8% and no more. I'm sure you all know.
Osmolality?
Osmolality.
What is that? What is that? Can you describe that?
It's,
don't worry.
Yeah, no, well, they used to experiment, the early development of science and sport, all those lovely energy gels and drinks that we, and the variants and different brands thereof, they initially used to boil up pasta, and then see that scum that forms on the top of your pot? And they just used to sort of scoop that off the top, tip it into a bidon, shake it up, put some sugar in it and go, okay, Chris Bogbin, this is going to get you round. Yeah.
Someone here will try that.
It's got to be cheaper than that science and sports stuff, that's for sure.
And I know because it's me. So,
absolutely. I'd honey, honey, not that Manuka honey, Jesus. No.
So when he's coming out with this, but you've been raised in the amateur era of the sport, and even in the amateurish professional side of the British sport. So when these ideas come in, as a journalist, do you embrace them, or do you go, this guy's crackers?
I loved it. Anybody who was rubbish would jump at anything. Do you know what I mean? Go on.
But it's something to write.
Read a pulse monitor.
As a journalist, As a journalist, it's something that's new, so you've got to write about it, so it's exciting, isn't it?
I sound like some sort of zealot, I believe in Peter Key. And I kind of did. But I hadn't really been raised in the Sid Barris, the kind of northern hard man school of cycling, So when Pete came along and said, you know what, you really want to think about doing this, okay, it sounds, I'll try that. The pros used to laugh, the guys that I used to report on, the Rob Holden and all those guys and Mark Walsham used to go, all right mate, are you still on the watch? Anybody who had a pulse monitor and their handlebars like, oh yeah, you on the watch? Yeah, I was.
That was going to be a fad. That's.
It made no difference. Yeah. But it was cool. Everybody had a polar sport tester if they were rich.
So what was the big turning point that when, because Britain didn't win an Olympic medal at cycling for 72 years.
Yeah, 1992, yeah, Boardman.
And then Boardman is a kind of outlier, which we can talk about later.
Yeah.
But then they win, in 4 games, they win 43?
I've lost count.
It's a lot.
It was terrifying.
It's a lot. And what is the turning point? Is it the day the lottery funding comes through? From that point on, could it not go wrong? Or was it still... Yeah. What could have gone wrong once they were given the money? They
gave the money to the wrong people and did the wrong things. But it isn't just about money. I mean, it really isn't. It's about gathering a bunch of people together and going, right, okay, people, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. Do you all buy into it? If you don't, you can leave. Right? Like that. And it takes a bit of time for...
Isn't it?
It's Glasgow, mate. Pick a windy. You're leaving. But in all seriousness, the idea is you can have a plan, but unless everybody buys into it, then that plan doesn't take off and it doesn't work. And which is why for the first couple of years, the plan didn't quite work. And part of the reason that isn't because Peter's ideas were necessarily bad, but Peter was not the man manager. Peter was the guy in the white coat.
Basically, boffin, is he? Does he avoid eye contact? Does he?
Kind of. Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah.
He just wants to be left alone to experiment and crunch numbers.
Don't ask me. I mean, I used to have to sort of psych myself up to go and speak to Peter. It was kind of, I'll look at my questions and think, okay, just make sure it's right. Because if you ask Peter a stupid question, he'd just roll his eyes and look at you as if, mate, don't bother me with that.
So
that was also true of staff inside Manchester. He would just walk away and go.
But Dave Brailsford gets involved quite early on.
Yeah, Dave, I like that part of the story actually. John Hennity gets Dave Brailsford into British cycling, and then 3 years later, Dave Brailsford sacks John Hennity. John Hennity helped Dave Brailsford so often in his career, even before he got into British cycling. It's kind of like Dave used to sort of ride with the guys at Nielsen Tivoli, for those of a certain vintage who remember that. Oh, actually, yeah, Tony Doyle used to ride for Nielsen Tivoli, but anyway.
Tony Doyle of more later.
No, and so David come back from France and he was sort of kicking about doing nothing. He was going to the chain gang and riding with the guys at Nielsen Tivoli, and John Hennity was managing the team, and he said, Dave, can you come and drive the van? Yeah, okay. So Dave Brailsford started out as a van driver in a bidon washer at the Oslo 1993 World Championship. That's absolutely true.
He's mad keen, apart from anything. He's a fan. I mean,
I think that's evidence of the fact that he was initially, and I still think he probably is. But so John Hennity kind of knew Dave Brailsford as just this guy sort of knocking about with, the chain gang, one of the local guys, and who was dead keen and quite savvy. And he said, I remember him in 1990. This is another example of how crap British cycling was. In 1993, he said, I remember Dave Brailsford washing bidons in a bath because we couldn't, we had to recycle them, and Dave was the guy whose job it was to disinfect the bidons in a bath in Oslo. And then But Dave also worked with another fella called Dave Loughran at Planet X. I'm sure we've all got some Planet X product somewhere. Anyway, Dave Loughran and Dave Brailsford helped sort of set up. Well, it was Dave Loughran's company. Dave helped him. And when British Cycling needed some cheap kit, cheap Lycra, some Concorde frames, John Hennity went, "Oh, I think I know this guy, Dave Brailsford. He could probably get us a good deal."
And then he's in. He's in the building.
He's in the building, yeah.
So what if we
And then he
worked?
takes it over.
If we worked for Dave Brailsford, maybe someone here does. If we worked for Dave Brailsford, so in maybe our case we'd be the press officer or something. What would he be like to work with? What's he like?
Neither you or I are.
We'd be hopeless.
No,
honestly.
no.
No, but we're not going to do anything else, are we? We're not going to be in the team pursuit, are we? I mean, I don't mean to cast aspersions, Kenny Pryde.
No, Jesus Christ. We could
be in the
carry
Madison, me and
bags.
you. Come on.
We could drive a van from point A to
drive
point
that.
B.
Anyway, the point of the question is, what would he be like? What would he be like to work for? Is he charismatic? Is he arm around the shoulder? Is he just, you recognise him as a genius and you let him get on with it? What's he like?
I don't know, because in all honesty, you know, as a journalist, you know, in any subject you approach, any person, you know, he's not the same person to me as he is to the people he works with. He doesn't have the relationship with Tim Kerrison as he would have with the guy that drives the bus, Slarkey.
But do you think it's man management is his thing? And,
I think,
making the team, leading the team?
Yeah, I think that's certainly what happened at British Cycling. Everyone I spoke to, even these critics, would say that, and there are plenty of critics who were around at the time, but even in spite of the criticisms that they have of Dave and what happened at British Cycling, they all recognise the fact that when Pete left after 2004 and Brailsford took over, the phrase that I heard more often than not was, the thing really took off, because Dave he was so different from Pete. So in terms of his man management skills and his ability to sort of like get everything together and convince them that this was the way, this we had to do this, you know, just believe and let's. There was somebody, I think it was Simon Jones actually, who's now